Imagine you have like a magic touch. You visit a man who's suffering from severe knee pain, you pray for him, and instantly he is completely cured.
Which is incredible, right?
Right, you should be thrilled, a total victory. But what if I told you the leader who did this was actually intensely frustrated by the whole experience?
Yeah, that's the wild part.
Today, we're diving into this fascinating audio recording of a coaching call that honestly completely upends how we think about success and growth.
It really does. Because this audio, it captures a real-time collision of two completely different worldviews. We're listening to a highly dedicated district leader, a pastor who truly wants to do the right thing, getting coached by someone operating on a radically different wavelength.
Yeah, and we are so glad you're joining us for this deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore how traditional thinking can unknowingly trap leaders and stifle true growth. And we'll look at how shifting to a grassroots disciple-making movement mindset, which we'll just call DMM, changes literally everything.
And alongside that coaching call, we're also looking at a framework document for a Discovery Bible Study, or DBS. It basically acts as the instruction manual for this new kind of movement.
Exactly. And we really need to establish right away that the pastor in this recording, he's not a fool.
Oh, absolutely not. He's a learning leader. He is deeply committed to his community.
Yeah.
But his legacy training, the institutional mindset he grew up with, it's actively colliding with this new apostolic vision. It's a journey of self-awareness that really applies to leadership in any field.
Okay, let's unpack this because the context of that healing story perfectly illustrates this old blueprint.
It really does.
So the pastor is recounting this incident to his coach. He prays for this watchman's knee, uses oil, the pain vanishes, and it's a genuine miracle.
A literal miracle.
Right. But then Sunday rolls around and the healed watchman just doesn't show up to the church service.
And the pastor is so annoyed.
He is. His voice on the recording is full of genuine frustration. He complains that people are treating his prayers like a medical treatment. They come, they get their fix, and they leave without ever joining his church.
And that frustration, it reveals his entire underlying metric for success. In the traditional institutional mindset, success is ultimately defined by attendance.
Just getting bodies in the building.
Exactly. Getting people into the building you control. From his perspective, the healing was supposed to be like the top of a marketing funnel. You perform the healing, they feel indebted, and the logical next step is they sit in your pews.
But the coach pushes back on this entirely. The new DMM philosophy dictates something that feels totally counterintuitive. When someone gets healed in an unreached community, you absolutely should not immediately invite them back to your church.
Which completely short-circuits the pastor's brain.
Right, because he's like, what was the point then?
Exactly. But the DMM framework explains this perfectly. The moment you invite that healed watchman into your centralized building, you've extracted him from his natural environment.
You pull him out of his community.
Yeah, you take him away from his family and place him into a foreign culture where he's just a passive spectator. The new mindset dictates that the healed person's home should actually become the new center for the movement.
It makes me think of that restaurant analogy from the sources. The pastor is acting like a restaurant owner who's incredibly proud of his dining room. He cooks these elaborate meals, and he's sitting in his empty restaurant feeling bitter that people won't travel 50 kilometers just to eat his food.
Because he wants to be the host.
Right, he wants everyone to come to him. He wants to be the waiter serving consumers. But DMM is like taking a food truck directly to their neighborhood.
Or even better, it's like walking into their kitchens and teaching them how to cook for themselves.
Yes. You have to transition from being a waiter who serves an audience to a culinary instructor who creates new chefs.
Which is incredibly uncomfortable if you've spent your whole career polishing your skills as a waiter.
Totally. So if the goal is to get people cooking in their own homes, how is this pastor actually running his home gatherings?
Well, that brings us to the most revealing part of the call. The coach asks the pastor about his family DBS, his Discovery Bible Study at home.
And the pastor sounds so proud answering this. He describes his family's routine. He says the kids read a chapter, they all sing a song, then his wife explains the text and preaches the word, and they pray.
Which sounds nice, right?
Wait, yeah, it sounds lovely and highly dedicated. Why is the coach entirely unimpressed by this?
Because it's an illusion. The coach realizes instantly that what the pastor just described is not a Discovery Bible Study, it's just old-school family prayer.
He just slapped a new label on it.
Exactly. He took the trendy terminology DBS and missed the 3 crucial stages of the actual framework document.
Okay, walk us through those stages, because it doesn't start with theology at all, does it?
It doesn't. The first phase is connect. The traditional model starts with a leader dispensing knowledge, but DBS demands you start by having everyone share what they are thankful for and what is causing them stress.
Wow, so it bridges real human struggles right away.
Yeah, it creates immediate emotional vulnerability. You aren't an audience. You're a circle of humans, which primes you for the second stage. Discover.
And this is where the pastor really messed up, right?
Huge mistake. The framework has a strict rule for the discover phase. Nobody preaches.
Nobody preaches. But the pastor literally boasted that his wife was preaching to the kids.
Right, which turns the kids back into passive consumers.
Mhm.
In a real DBS, the group reads a text, and then someone has to retell the story in their own words. Then they just ask simple questions about what it means.
It really reminds me of sitting in a gym, watching the pastor's wife preach while the kids listen. It's exactly like sitting on a bench watching a professional athlete lift weights.
That's a great way to put it.
Like your muscles will not grow a single millimeter unless you pick up the weights yourself. They were just watching her lift the spiritual weights.
What's fascinating here is how self-discovery shifts people from passive consumers to active participants. When you have to retell a story from memory, your brain has to process it. You take ownership of that knowledge.
And that ownership leads to the third stage, which is multiply. How does that work?
They ask specifically who they will share this story with. And the document highlights a critical detail. You must ask for a specific name.
So you can't just say, oh, I'll tell a friend.
No, you have to say, I am going to share this with Ramesh.
Which creates real accountability for the next week.
Exactly. It's an engine for replication.
So that begs the question, if the DBS method is so much better and takes the burden off the leader, why doesn't the pastor just do it?
And this is where we get into the psychological barrier. It comes down to the leader's ego and his assumptions about his people.
There's a slightly sad moment in the audio where the pastor claims his congregation is uneducated. He says they aren't like the Berean church members who search the scriptures themselves. He implies they'll only believe what he directly spoon-feeds them.
He is acting as a gatekeeper due to a subconscious insecurity. Think about it. If they can learn directly from the Holy Spirit, what is his purpose?
He feels irrelevant.
Exactly. He's underestimating them to protect his own status.
But I have to push back on his logic there. Do you need a PhD in theology to understand a story? Even elderly folks who can't read a single letter can watch a TV serial and deeply analyze the complex motivations of who is good and who is bad.
Absolutely. They have incredible narrative literacy.
Right. You don't have to be an expert. The DBS uses simple questions, and the Lord will speak to them.
But because he keeps his expectations so artificially low, he creates a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's just wild.
Right.
And this local family dynamic really scales up to the overarching vision of the organization. His micro failures are symptoms of a macro misunderstanding.
Oh, completely. The coach asks him about the vision of Covenant, their broader network.
And his response is shockingly mundane.
It's so physical.
Yeah, he thinks the vision is about providing roofing sheets, materials, and items for church shelters.
He thinks his job is hardware and building supplies. It contrasts so sharply with the true apostolic vision of DMM, which is having every single believing family running a family DBS in their own home.
Two entirely different worlds colliding.
A vision of metal roofs versus a vision of human multiplication.
So what does this all mean? When we look at the actual results, what's happening? This brings us to the final damning piece of evidence from the audio.
The metric that exposes everything.
Right. When asked how many DBS groups he has in his church, the pastor casually says, 3.
Just 3.
Just 3. And the coach's frustration is palpable because it has been exactly 3 groups for 3 years.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the difference between a static program and a multiplying movement. A movement goes from 1 to 2 to 4.
But he's been stuck at 3 for 36 months.
Because 3 years of stagnation means the pastor is hoarding control in his comfort zone instead of releasing it. He's managing a tiny program where he gets to stay the expert.
Wow. It really is an eye-opening deep dive. To summarize the ultimate takeaway for you listening, whether you are leading a church, a business, or a community project, keeping all the power and acting as the waiter or the gatekeeper, well, it feels comfortable. But it guarantees stagnation.
It really does.
Yeah.
True multiplication only happens when you release control to the grassroots level.
Exactly. You have to realize that the biggest obstacle to growth is rarely outside opposition. It's usually the cozy comfort of our own outdated traditional mindsets.
This raises an important question, though.
Oh, what's that?
Imagine a society where every single household acts as an independent center of leadership and learning, rather than outsourcing their growth to a centralized institution.
Oh, wow,
How
yeah.
would that decentralized, localized empowerment completely change the architecture of our modern communities? I mean, far beyond just religion.
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on decentralizing our growth entirely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.